just to kick things off, I think it'll be great if the panelists just give us a quick introduction of themselves, the company that they and the startup that they represent, and also the enterprise they represent, and what they do as well. And then we will kick off with some questions and get going on the chat.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So my name is Nitin Vohra. I'm part of Google Cloud. Joined here 2.5 years back. So I've been in the industry much before with the IT industry on hardware side. With cloud, it was on actually the back end side, you can say. So across at my current role, I am managing the enterprise business for Google Cloud for a particular geography. The enterprises cut across multiple segments, but largely they are companies like yourself, whom we call digital natives, like born in the cloud. So that's about me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amit. I run a company called Noise. Me and Gaurav co-founded this a decade back. We started from solving our problems of getting a right quality product in the market. We started with mobile accessories and gradually pivoted to wearable and hearable as a category where we are in. We are currently third largest in the world in terms of watches. As a brand, we are fully integrated in terms of manufacturing, R&D, and by the way, you most of you might not know that the kind of volumes as a country and as a brand we ship, and our app, which is NoiseFit app, is most downloaded app on health and fitness store in India. We have got close to 20 million downloads and 10 million monthly active users and a million daily active users. People tracking their steps and all. But anyways, we can keep discussing with time.
Thanks.
I'm Nitin Agarwal. I head GlobalBees, which is uh, basically called the House of Brands. We operate currently about 20 dominant brands, but there's a long tail of about 50 odd brands. A large segment focus area has been to develop niche brands in the segment where people like Anoop don't put in money. So it allows us to make bit of money. But it's been an interesting 3 years journey that we've been because a lot of segments. Our thesis was in India. Most of the people, when they look at creating brands, they look at TAMs and go top 5 TAMs. And our thesis was at least by the time people reach the fifth one, most of the people are tired. So we said we'll go sixth onwards, and we built fairly dominant brands in categories you may not think of, right? So somebody other day, co-founder of India Mart, he said I bought a some bath accessory on Amazon. I said 90% chance is it would be my brand. I said which brand? I told him the brand, and he said, "Oh, मेरे घर में पूरा my home everything is a brand called Plantex." I said, "Yeah, I own 90% market share." So the 90% chance. So there are a lot of categories, very interesting stuff. We sell more ladders in this country than any one factory produces, right? And we are fairly dominant. So our idea was India is still a 30% branded market. There is 70% branded categories which are still unaccounted for, and it requires a organized brand thought process. And there will be large brands. I think one of the very inspirational for me is recently you would have may have heard of a brand called Epco, right? Not many people know about Epco, right? But today, if you want to have a furniture fitting, there's only Epco. That's a brand worth 5,500 crores. But not many people would invest into that. So that's been our focus. And God has been kind. Things have been good. And hope we'll continue on the journey.
No, great. Thanks a lot for those introductions. Probably just to kick off the topic of the aspiring Indian, right? What and I don't think we can start a consumer tech topic without actually understanding our consumers that these brands are sort of talking to, what the needs are. Would be great to hear at least from Amit and Nitin. What does that aspiring Indian customer persona here mean for you guys? And when you decide what is the right product to take to the market, how how does that conversation around value conscious customer versus a brand or a premium positioning sort of work out in your minds? Would be great to start off with that. So the first part of the question is on consumer persona, and the second is related to that. How do you build that value proposition to take to market?
No, so you know, so let me just start with some data points. Mobile industry is a good starting point. If you look at data for the last year, last quarter, I was checking. So if you look at the mobile market, the entry segment is somewhere around 30% market share, and the mid segment is maybe around still $600 something, is around what, 40% market share, and the top market is around 5 to 10%, the premium one, which is basically Samsung's and Apple of the universe. So what we have seen, the entry market, which is the super low, maybe you could call it as an unbranded play which doesn't exist in the market, has degrown by what, 32% in the market, and the mid market, which has actually grown by what, 40 odd percent. So what we are seeing is, India as a country, we are definitely price conscious. We are not a nation where we would spend any money. I mean, we keep talking to users, and you will be surprised that whatever product you buy at whatever price point, there is one common feedback that I find this high value for money. The people on Apple also write this. People on Xiaomi also write this, for an example, or unbranded product also. So India as a nation is that, and we believe that now as an economy, we have what our what max 30-40% are between what, 25 to 45, that kind of age group. So we see that population is very they are value conscious, and definitely they want to go for a brand. That segment is growing up, and whenever we are doing a product pilot, I mean, we started with the opening price point. I'll be very candid, but we are realizing that the value is there in the mid segment of the market, and bottom segment is definitely raised. It's raised going down. So whenever we are creating a product, that segment we have an eye on, and I think maximum value lies there.
So, at least because we operate multiple brands in multiple segments, our experience has been customer from his own startup perspective is always looking at an aspiration which is one above that, right? I think very interesting use case would be, say, Zudio, for example. And for what, I haven't been to online shopping in like 15 years. But from whatever I see, Zudio probably sells clothes or t-shirts at the same price, maybe where V2 retail may sell, 50 rupees here and there. But Zudio is aspirational. So aspiration and price honestly do not need to marry. I think what you need to be able to give to every price segment customer is something which is aspirational but is budget on their pocket, right? It's the same case of a Merc launching a class, right? Is no different than a Maruti launching a 20 lakh rupees car. Um, Everybody from a customer perspective is looking to upgrade that little bit. And as long as your brand positioning is right, you are a premium. A Zudio is a premium for somebody who's shopping in maybe Sarojini Nagar, right? But once you get into the segment, then Zara will become a premium. Then you go to a segment, then a Tommy will become a premium, and then a Louis Vuitton will become a premium. So every customer is looking for one up. As long as you are able to position your brand to that right customer segment, which is one up, aspirational to him, but fits the pocket, I think that creates that niche. And at least from our perspective, we kind of create multiple brands and target customers from that.
Got it. Nitin, your favorite topic when you talked about TAM and a few things that VCs doesn't go after. Uh, so when you look at that jump of trying to move that customer to that aspiring segment, right, and that is an underwriting or a leap of faith that you're taking. That is exactly how customer behavior sort of moves in. Correct. Um, so have you found some of these categories where, in your own experience, because you are a house of brands, there are multiple categories that you deal with. Has there been some categories where that depth of market didn't span out, and some where probably the depth is even more larger that you could go up and build more and more onto that premium one up segment?
Yeah, yeah. So see, our success has been dependent on doing large number of experiments in a very short time and at very low cost. And that's how you learn because, you know, never assume what customer will do, and people get it wrong most of the times. We get it wrong most of the times. The only way to do is experiment. A very good example of that which nobody believed. I mean, 3 years back, we actually entered a category called a robotic vacuum cleaner. The entire category in India was 25 crores, and people said it was a COVID fad. We also tried. Today, that category, we actually built that category. In 3 years, that category is moved from a 200 crore category to 300 crore category. We are a 80% market owner of that category, but nobody knew, right? We just kept on doing the right thing by the customer. We kept on learning from the customer, and we kept on growing. So this is an example of a success one. But when you take these kind of bets, there are bound to be failures. So doing large enough experiments, let customer tell you, constantly hear them, and then do it in a very small cost.
Got it.
Don't bet your ego onto it.
Understood. Nitin, probably this is to you in terms of you hear founders doing some of these things. I would probably say quite a lot driven by intuition and that understanding that they bring about their customers. How does platforms like yourself make this a lot more data oriented, make it a lot more driven through technology? And how where do you think technology plays a role in some of these brand building nuances, be it early stage or be it in the scaled stages? What have you seen?
See, if you look at technology, and Nitin actually answered that. Main is what he said about looking at market, taking feedback, doing experiment, quickly going back to a drawing board and relaunching it. So all that is possible because of tech. And you look at the way tech is today. Like when we were in college, I mean, to be honest, on a different note, the only time we used to get to tech is get into the computer room with the shoes off and try and play that for half an hour. Okay, but
It
today
was
what has happened is it was invisible then. Today also in a way it is invisible. You don't realize, our parents don't realize how much we interact with tech, how much we depend on tech. And that's the way tech should be. It has to be invisible so that it kind of empowers you. You're not afraid to use it. And for brands, it becomes even more now when such a large population is using tech in so many forms. I think for brands, it is very clear that how well are they able to communicate what they have to say. How do they communicate? Earlier probably it was only TV or it was print. Today we have multiple forms of communication, multiple screen sizes, multiple platforms, even different times of the day when you know which target segment would be on tech on most. So the first thing which brands should understand is where all do we communicate. Then if you double click on that, the next question is what to communicate. Now, communicating a same message to a 50-year-old, to a 18-year-old, to what Nitin said earlier, you could be a price conscious customer, but an 80-year-old, you have to communicate the value prop very clearly. What is it adding to him or her? So I think that content which you need to generate, you can one leverage technology to generate that also, using with tools available on generative AI to generate that content, quickly communicate that content, do it in multiple languages. And then once you've done that, the content part, the third is, I think a lot of companies have data which if you've been in the industry or in existence for a long time, you would have data which is archived somewhere. If you're a digital native, you'll have data. Then drawing insights out of it. Now, how well are you able to draw insights? How well now that customer whom you sold a product, maybe that customer needs a different product or the same product at a different point of time. Now, what you should then look at is if you had acquired that customer at X rupees, you want to acquire that customer somewhere down the line again. To give you an example in Edtech, a child may need tuition when he or she is on middle school. They may need maybe a coaching when they're in high school. Maybe they'll need that same student might need executive MBA course or MBA course, or when they're working professional, you might need a course. Now, if you have a platform which has entire journey, how well do you drive insights? How well then using those insights do you do the step one and step two? That is communicate and the relevant content. And so these three things are absolutely critical when you're trying to really build a brand. But in my mind, there are two more things which brands should do. Check, like you mentioned, First Cry has probably the largest community. One, do create a community of whatever users you have, whichever way you want to do it. whether it is parents, students, entrepreneurs, enthusiasts. Create a community, see what's happening in that community, and do a brand repositioning if required. Because ultimately, you cannot be unrelevant in today's market. You have to be relevant as the times are changing. So I think you can use tech in all of these forms. And there are multiple brands who were not known to us when we were growing up. Today, probably we can't live without those brands, and it's been made possible without tech. I mean, just think about it. Who would have thought that the largest theater company would be someone who doesn't own any theater, but they have movies everywhere.
Got it.
So I think it's all made possible of tech. There are tools available. We are working with a lot of companies across different segments on different tools to again communicate well, create content, drive insights, take actions, and depending on your product, whether you want to scale up or scale down. So I think all these things are possible today.
Great. Thanks, Nitin. Just yeah.
Let me add something. It's a very valid point because most of the time what happens that we get very myopic with our view that this gonna succeed. I'll give you a very classic example. So we do wearables and wearable it do sports tracking also. And at a time in the market, people are working on 100 sports mode. By the way, I'm sure most of you use a wearable device these days. It could be a ring or a watch, and it can track sports mode when you do a sports mode. So there was a time where everybody was talking about I need 100 sports mode, I need 120 sports mode, and it was a driving force from all the sales channels basically. Then when we looked at data, we realized that yeah, we people spend 4.5 minutes on our app when they come, and 70% people were spending time on watch faces, which means they change the screens of the watch. And in when you look at sports mode, the sports mode was 40% people were using walking, and then 20% someone strength training, 10% dance, 10% yoga. वो 5 sports mode में their entire gamut was getting finished. Then we realized what's the point of building 100 sports mode when let's building a snowball, let's say when nobody's doing it. And then we worked on that inside of working on watch faces, and we just launched a product called Pro 6 where we have a AI generated watch face. That's the only product we have, and it's really doing well. So off late we have realized that consumer is the key, and the industry where we are in, at least we get live analytics or insights. You sell on Amazon or Flipkart, third day reviews are there. So
Got
for all of us, it is important to keep an
yeah,
eye
keep
there.
an eye out and
Yeah, yeah.
watch in terms. But you touched on an interesting topic, Amit, and probably most relevant from your context as well is when you look at significant technology disruption which is happening in different parts of the world. How do you, as an organization today, be on top of that vis-a-vis doing value engineering on some of those innovations to sort of bring it and adapt it to the Indian customer, right? Where does that balance lie? Because you can go as deep as R&D and build this out almost like a as a full-fledged R&D backed organization, vis-a-vis looking at it as looking at certain innovations, seeing relevancy in the market, whether the customer would pay for that particular innovation, and doing a bit of value engineering to adopt it to India. Where what is the right approach in your mind, or
So
what is the approach which Noise has taken?
so it definitely depends on what market you are looking at, and India versus US is a very different ball game. But let's be specific when we are in India. So it depends on the stage of the market. So when we started our category, it was just at the beginning of it. So honestly, it was like why we did this because I wanted to buy a watch. Fitbit was available at 20,000 grants. I had a budget of 5 to 10,000 rupees, so we did value engineering that time. But that was a way when you start crawling and then walking. But now when we became leaders in the market, we realized that there is nothing you could process engineer and cut the cost and get to the market. And the market is also getting saturated. So when you are thinking to move up in the market, or maybe I would rather put it going for a repeat behavior for a consumer, you have to innovate. And innovation has to come from consumer insight. So I think it is a fine balance and at a different stage. But right now, I personally think where we are sitting, we are investing in R&D. Honestly, we're not investing too heavily in R&D, but there is a certain portion. We have 50 people engineering team, which is like 15% of our org who are working towards, and maybe we're bringing in micro features. Like I said, AI watch face, we're the first one to do it.
Yeah,
It's simple, but
got it.
that's where we are heading. And also What happens when you are leader, the entire ecosystem looks up to you. I mean, we have to take the market to a direction. Are all partners, for an example, marketplaces also look up to us, ki what is new you are
What's
bringing
new
as a
you're bringing?
leader.
Okay.
And when we work with partners who are chipsets and sensors, they also talk to us,
Correct.
ki Amit, or as Noise, what is the new chipset we should be working on? What are the new features do you think consumers want?
Got it.
So I think that is where we have to work on innovation
No,
to take
no,
market up.
completely. I understand that it right fits with what kind of a category you are and what customer base that you're serving as well. Nitin, back to you. Just wanted to also gauge when you went after a buy strategy in the beginning when you were looking at brands. Many of those brands were sort of brought on board to a larger platform like GlobalBees, and there were certain synergies which were attempted as well, and many of them worked as also. Today when you look at a build versus buy strategy and also a right to win in this brands space for India, what has worked for Global Bees and probably some learnings from that?
I think few things. First of all, when we looked at in the market, I think we had our puzzle board kind of ready. We were very clear we'll do this, we will not do this. This is something that we can digest, this is something we won't do. So our first thing was to build a kind of a negative list, right? I mean, for something, I met Amit 3 years back, and we said, "ये अमित ही कर पाएगा, ये हम नहीं करेंगे." That kind of thing. So you need to know first your limitation and what you're going after, and what niche you're going after, and why you're going after. So we very clearly said, we'll not do apparels, we'll not do electronics, we'll not do XYZ, we'll not do grocery, we'll not do cold chain. We will build a supply chain for this market that we are targeting. And then in that, more than the brand, we said, okay, what is the capability we need, right? When you say build versus buy, it's a function of time, right? But you have to collect capability, right? Now, capability is what we decided on, saying this is the capability we'll build and this is the capability we'll buy, more than the brand. So, capability we said we'll build is the core, right? Which is the core distribution, the core operating system, the core technology, the core this thing. And then we said capabilities and know-how are the brands who understands the consumer, right? In the segment that we want to operate. That's a know-how that we'll bring. It didn't matter whether the brand was 20 crores or 100 crores, right? And that's how we kind of tried to fit the pieces of the puzzle. We got it more right than wrong. And at least that's how we thought about it. Never kind of went after buying a revenue or a brand. We always thought it from a capability perspective, and which is complementary to our the entire puzzle board.
Got it. And Amit, probably back to you. What is Noice's right to win today in the market, according to you?
I think the kind of scale what we have, maybe the kind of consumer base, I mean, we have shipped about 20, 30 odd million devices. So the kind of trust we have, that is more important, I personally feel. And second, it's all about experience doing the same thing and making hundreds of mistakes. You just see it, five good things we have done, but there are 100 mistakes we have done on the back. So, scale, innovation, the way we are investing. And as a brand, I'll tell you, we were very clear that we will not go broad actually. When in our industry for revenue, people were doing tens of categories for us, like hair grooming and all those things. We realized that this is not noise. Let us go deeper where we are. And so I'll tell you what segments we are going in. I'll tell you, like we are into wearables. Now we are catering to a segment which is for kids. We keep getting demand from parents. I'm also father, by the way. So I realize that the biggest pain point is when kids are out, how do we track them? So that ecosystem, going deeper into it, I think helping us out and then giving us economies of scale. We have our own manufacturing. We invest a lot in R&D, so it becomes very difficult for someone to compete like to like us on that scale.
Uh, Nitin, just on, I don't think any topic today is done without talking about AI. Where is, how and where, from a vantage point of Google, can AI sort of build on the actual cores of fundamentally building sustainable brands, right? So, where have you seen some examples? What can the tool sets or the platforms that Google is building be leveraged by the founders? Many of them in the audience as well. Where do you think Google can play a great role in enabling that ecosystem of founders?
So I think we have a pretty strong story right from the engagement with the community, not just on tech. Right from how we engage, maybe if you're in early stage or late stage or fully funded, now you want to come into us for maybe a complete starting your business to maybe looking at how do you drive growth. You might be a big spender on ads with us, but you might say that, you know what, I'm not able to, I need a better return on my ad spend. I have my data, can you help build that? So we are seeing various examples coming up, both from private and public sector. um, Now I can talk officially about the ones which are listed probably on our website or where we have some joint PR with. To name a few, like ONDC is one big area in the public sector side. Now, why I talked about ONDC? Till about 2 years back, it was not even existent to a place where they are doing millions of transactions every day. So, right from scratch to building it, both on the buyer side and the seller side. The sellers also are not that tech savvy. I mean, the seller could be a small town, a lady there who has really good designs on saris. How does she list a product to gain eyeballs? How does she do transactions? So while ONDC made it possible, but then they have a very good use of our generative AI capability to help write that content, help display that content in multiple languages. And then there is a very innovative bot they have where they can transact with that. Ultimately, it is driving growth, it is driving value, it is driving revenue for that seller. So that is one good example. Now, flip it to maybe a large digital native like yourself. My colleague is here who's kind of done this with No Broker. Both my colleagues who manage that. If you see No Broker's app today, if you want to maybe move your house, so that they have an app called Move, where you just take a video of the room with with the furniture and everything, and it'll tell you how many boxes would be needed. So it kind of reduces the time for someone to come and inspect and really do the inventory of kitne boxes, kya packaging, what thing. So that is also very good use case of productivity. Internationally, there are a lot of brands which are listed, like Spotify uses it. A lot of our ML capabilities for personalized music recommendation. We have Netflix on where video streaming is optimized depending on the size. So a lot of these, and we are seeing, and some of the brands which you listed here, like one of them I can name because he came and spoke at one of our events, is Miko, where what they sell is robots, child robots. But when you are giving, and like you said, when you're giving technology to your child, you want it to work, you wanted to say the right things, not something else. So the way they've tuned the model there, it recognizes between user A and user B. So it recognizes if you have two kids, which one to answer, what to answer. So I think there are really good use cases which are being deployed. There are multiple which are being tested also at POC stage, both for productivity as well as to drive. So think of it this way, there is one angle of productivity, the other one is how do you improve your experience with the customer, which can either get new customers or drive even higher value with existing customers. Third, on where they're getting deployed is how do we kind of, there are a lot of companies who are confident now, okay, let's put this into production on the side where AI will completely take that load. For example, if you're in e-commerce, probably cancellations is something which is completely managed now there, so you can do that. So we are seeing companies in different stages but multiple use cases to drive all of these.
Great. No, thanks. We love it when partners talk about our portfolio than us talking about our portfolio. So to that extent, Miko is a fantastic story about an Indian brand trying to go global and trying to capture a global audience as well beyond the Indian kids segment as also, right? So thanks for that mention, Nitin. But just one quick question to all the three. I can't let you go without talking about your brands which have entered your homes in the recent 1 2 years, new age brands which you guys are using or you see a lot in your homes now. Nitin, Nitin, over to you. No, I don't want GlobalBees portfolio.
So just telling Amit, like Lenskart is one brand which my daughter and wife both are using a lot now. Now they've recently also bought this phonic, which I was telling you she's interested. She's trying to see if we can fit prescription glasses also onto that phonic. So Lenskart is probably one brand which is newish.
Perfect. I just love having Nitin on every panel. I just don't need to talk about my portfolio at all. Thank you very much. Amit, new age brands which have come in. It could be in any space, fashion, BPC.
You know,
What have you
honestly,
seen your family use now?
the family is using. I think if you walk into any room of our house, so it's all BPC brands. I mean, from if you go to washroom, also is Mama Earth of the
Okay,
universe
that's
sitting
good.
there, and then kitchen or your supplement store is Whole Truth kind of sitting. But if you ask me personally, I think I'm all I think is AI is happening around, and
Sure.
there is solid transformation happening in every device. I was checking one of my teammates; they're using mouse which has an AI.
Ah.
So I mean, I think gradually entire shift has to happen on that side.
Can't recall. This is Lenscart. This is Pan Project.
That's that's a nice one, Pan Project. Yeah, we love what Dhruv is building out there as well. Great. No, thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for joining me on the panel and gracing the occasion as well.